What's going on, everybody? This is Brian Mazika, the Fight Guys, and I am also a Forbes contributor. And I'm here with my guy, my partner, my friend, Peter Kahn. Some of the same tags. What's going on, Peter?
Everything's good. It's 1:30 a.m. ish here on the
Yes, it
East
is.
Coast in Miami, Florida, and we had a good night of boxing tonight.
We did.
Exciting
We
night of
did.
boxing, a lot of boxing.
We had a lot of boxing. You and I both know what the best fight of the night was
Right,
on paper and in the ring,
right.
but much to our chagrin, the most popular fight of the night is probably going to be the Javante Davis versus Ricardo Nunez fight. So we're going to talk about Mo Hooker and Jose Ramirez, of course, but we got to feed the beast. So, and we're not going to spend an unnecessary amount of time analyzing a second round knockout by Javante Davis. But we do want to at least talk about it. Did you get a chance to get a look at the 4.5 minutes that they fought?
I did. No, I did. I did. I
Mhm.
did. I watched it, and look, he brings them out. I mean, Gervonta Davis is one of the top fighters in the sport.
Mhm.
He's at 130. He's probably maybe the best fighter at 130.
Mhm.
I think he brought out. I saw Leonard Ellerby tweeted. I don't know I thought it was 14,000 and change came out. Does that
Yeah.
seem about
And
right?
it didn't look like a lie. That looked like about what was there. So
Right, but that's a lot. I mean, that's a lot of that's a lot of people. Okay, that's a
especially
lot of
for
people
where
for
the
their
for the
opponent
venue. Yeah.
and the opponent.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, all credit to Gervonta Davis, to what they're doing with him. He did his job. They put who they put in front of him. His job's to go out and win.
Mhm.
And the good thing is that he just seems to do it in very impressive fashion. I think he needs to be fighting uh, more competitive fights. I think they're out there. So for
Mhm.
people to say, "Oh, well, he just stops people," there's more competitive fights out there. I think they have to start finding a way to make those happen, because for him and his legacy, I mean, he's a young fighter. He's exciting. I think that they need to figure out how to get that done, so that he can really stake his claim as the best 130 pounder, and also just have some more competitive fights. But he did his job. I mean the guy, Harvey Doc did Nunez a favor.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
It
that's
was
one thing.
inevitable.
Yeah, that's one thing I kind of wanted to say too. At first, I thought it was a little bit of an early stoppage, but I understand why. Because the last shot that came in, Nunez's arms dropped and they almost went around, flapped around as if it was going to be a grab. And so that's one of those stoppages that when it happens at that point, you're like, was that a little bit too early? But then when you look at the replay, you realize, okay, it was probably right on time. And even if it was a little too early, um, I'm always a proponent of stopping fights that guys don't have a chance to win. Like if I mean, it was early to say that, and Nunez does have some power. At least we think he does based off the people he stopped.
But he was hurt.
But yeah, he was hurt.
He was
He was
stunned.
hurt. Yeah, he was stunned, and it was a minute and a half left in the round against a superior athlete who is a ferocious puncher. Now, to Davis's defense, he does. It was Nunez was his mandatory.
Mhm.
So
I get
and
it.
you know,
I understand. That's what I'm saying. He did his job. I mean,
yeah.
what do you want? What do you want? You can't apologize for doing his job. He did his job. They brought out the fans. He's one of the most exciting fighters in boxing. So what
Hmm.
can you say?
Yeah.
There just wasn't much fight to analyze. I mean, he came out, moved around, stunned the guy, would have knocked him out eventually, and I mean, Nunez was on his way out. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a good stoppage. I mean, it was a good fight for what it was. Yeah, he was the mandatory.
Yes, for sure. Now, I like, I'm sure you feel this way. I would love to see him in the ring with Jamel Herring, Tevin Farmer, or Miguel Burkelt. That's who everybody would like to see him fight.
Those fights can be made.
Yes, yes. I mean, and if we talk about what just happened tonight in on the DAZN card, it's even proof that it can be made. Tevin Farmer was on that card. He had a tougher matchup with Frenois than
Which was a
Davis had.
mandatory.
Yeah, which was also a mandatory with than Davis had with Nunez, but
Mhm.
it can be made. I mean, Maurice Hooker, it, you know, they both, him and Jose Ramirez, both crossed the promotional lines
Right.
to get the fight made.
But it was more than that tonight, and I'll say it like this. So 3 promoters collaborated to present the co-feature and feature.
Hmm.
DiBella Entertainment has Farmer
Right.
in partnership with Matchroom only because Farmer has the zone deal.
Hmm.
But, he's, under promotional contract to DiBella. Then,
Hmm.
like you said, Maurice Hooker is with Matchroom.
Hmm.
Ramirez is with Top Rank. So you had 3 of the top promoters in boxing working together to put a show on. And you had Bud Crawford in support of Maurice Hooker being gracious enough to go and do an interview on DAZN,
Hmm.
whereas you wouldn't see a lot of other fighters in the venue under other promotional entities, uh, managerial entities, however you want to call it, necessarily going on another network like that. You had Regis Progre
Hmm.
doing an interview. Of course, Devin Haney's with Matchroom, so he's fighting on DAZN. But it was just, the fights can be made, and I think that I know Top Rank uh, and DeBella would have no problem making those fights along with Mayweather Promotions and PBC for Javante Davis. And look, he might run the table and be the undisputed champion, but we're never going to know if they don't make those fights. And then, really, who else is he going to fight?
Yeah.
It's hurting him more than anybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's. I mean, you're talking about Javante, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I think it's hurting him in the eyes of people like you and I who are evaluating like his overall legacy and such. But I don't know that it's hurting his pockets. And the reason why I say that is because look at the draw across the board. And like this is just one small barometer. But I think, like you said, both of us 100% agree that the zone card was a much better card, right? But if you just look at the engagement, like I wrote up a results piece for both Javante's fight and
Mhm.
Ramirez Hooker fight. Much better. But the Ramirez Hooker fight, much better fight. The Javante cards, 7,500 people already looked at it in 2 hours. Not even 1,000 people have looked at Ramirez Hooker.
Mhm.
Even before the fights went down, and you talk about giving people the information on how to watch the fight, who's searching the fight out. Over 18,000 people, and this is just my work, not talking about everybody else's work across the board.
Right. We know this. I mean,
18 that but what I'm saying is I'm saying that to say you're saying that it's hurting his pockets. I'm saying it may not. You're saying that it's hurting him. I'm saying it depends on how you look at it. Hurting him in what way? And does he care about the way that you're talking about?
I think eventually you got to measure, what legacy you're going to leave in the sport as a fighter, along with the money that you're going to make. If we're going to judge it strictly on money, I don't know how much money he's making. I think at the end of the day, the opponents will also dictate the type of purse money that he's going to get moving forward. And I think there's a lot more money for him to make by fighting some of these more compelling fights. So I'm sure he's doing well and he's doing what he's supposed to do right now. There are other fighters in the same position with other promoters, uh, like in the welterweight division, where
Hmm.
there's one odd man out who PBC doesn't even recognize as a welterweight champion. So you could say the same thing about Crawford. You know what I mean? Because he's having a hard time having guys to fight. So I think you can take him and put him and Javante in the same boat in their divisions, where
See,
all the good.
I don't know if that's equal because I don't think that Bud is the draw now, and this is he should be, but I don't think Bud is the draw that Javante is. He's not. He's Bud doesn't have the street cred that Javante has. He doesn't have that it factor and I'm not saying Bud's an inferior fighter. I think Bud's a better fighter.
I mean,
I think that Bud just is not the same type. He doesn't have the same machine behind him. And because he doesn't have that braggadocious type of a demeanor.
but what do you mean he
And
doesn't have the same machine behind him?
he's not Javante's career is being
Mhm.
guided and pushed by somebody who's a good deal of their of their clout is on the fact that they have a O. They're 50-0. And we can people can dispute it. They can say, oh, well, he should have lost this fight, or he didn't fight this person, he didn't fight that person. But Mayweather, a big part of who he is and the esteem is that nobody's beaten him. So to me, it looks as though Javonte's career is being guided in the same way.
Man,
Keep that
we're
O.
having so many different conversations in this one conversation.
I think you're sleepy and you're having a hard time staying with me
No,
because I'm staying
no.
on the same
Listen, what I'm saying
thing.
is
I'm staying on the same thing.
we're talking about Javante fighting more competitive fights so that he
Yeah.
can, build his legacy at 130 pounds. I'm sure he's making good money. I wasn't using the comparison about him being the odd man out, okay,
Mhm.
because there are no other 130 pounders within his promotional environment. I was using Crawford as an example because there are no other competitive 147 pounders in his promotional environment. So, in order for him to have those big fights, he's going to have to figure out a way to get top rank, to get more competitive 147 pounders, or move back down to 140, or PBC open the door for collaboration where he can fight one of the many other welterweights. That's where I was going with it. I
Right.
wasn't
And
talking about
I guess what I'm saying is I don't think for the first statement that you made, I think how we got going on Javante was that
right.
you're saying it's hurting him to begin with. And my rebuttal to that is it depends on how you define him being hurt. If
Is Crawford not I understand what you're saying. With all
Mhm.
things being equal though, with them making, similar money, um, is it hurting Crawford not to have big fights at welterweight?
It depends on, like I said, how you define him being hurt. But then
I'm
also,
talking about boxing legacy.
oh,
Boxing.
if we're talking about boxing legacy, absolutely. That the hardcores are not going to consider Javante on the same level that they would consider somebody who is having, these mega, even somebody who has losses on their career, on their record. They're
Right.
not going to consider that. But as a fighter, it depends on um it depends on where his priorities are.
I mean, when he fought Pedraza and he
Hmm.
dismantled Pedraza and won the world title, that was just such an excellent fight for him against a credible opponent.
Hmm.
I don't think he's had one of those since.
No, he hasn't. I'm not
And that's
disputing.
where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I'm not disputing any of that. I'm just
Right.
saying you're saying it's hurting him. And I'm like, well, I can say that. You can say that.
Right.
But if he's okay with the way that his career is
Yeah,
moving,
but I don't think eventually, how fighters are. I don't think he'll be okay. Eventually, I think he's gonna want to show that he is the best 130 pounder, and that in order to show that, he's just gonna have to fight the other top fighters, who I'm
yeah,
sure who would be eager to fight him. It just makes for good, it's just good for good boxing, you know.
absolutely, absolutely. I just don't think that him and Bud are a good comparison in that situation because Bud alone, Bud couldn't fight Ricardo Nunez, and I don't think get or
Yeah, he
Ricardo
could.
Nunez
Yeah, he
level
could.
fighter
He could. He's done it. He's done it, Brian.
do what?
He's done
Do
it.
what?
He's
Do what?
sold out the arena.
In Nebraska.
He has. Same
Right. In Nebraska.
Nebraska,
That's
Baltimore,
the point.
pick your poison.
In
Hey, a
Nebraska.
ticket's a ticket. A ticket's a
And
ticket.
the online and
But you
the
understand what I'm
over
saying.
yeah, but the engagement I don't think is the same. From being someone who's covered both fights
Right.
with both guys fighting overmatched opponents.
Mhm.
The engagement because Bud has accomplished 50 million more times things than Javante has in the sport. Way more.
Right.
But
Undisputed 140
it's
pounder.
but they're not you would think that because of the quality of Bud compared to Javante, he'd be way ahead of him when it comes to engagement and it comes to just overall popularity, but
Right.
he isn't.
Is anybody else on here that wants to argue with us?
Uh, Abraham Chavez says that Bud is pound for pound and everyone stays ducking him. I think I definitely think Bud is among the pound for pound best fighters in the world. I would say 3 to 4 best fighters in the world.
Right.
I don't think it's as simple as people are ducking him.
Right. I think
It,
they'd like to fight him. I just think that, for
it's the
business
stuff,
reasons, it's just
it's the business stuff.
right.
It's not like, you know, Errol Spence is not afraid of
No.
Terrence Crawford.
Well, none of those guys are.
They're not afraid. He's not afraid. Manny Pacquiao's not afraid of Terrence Crawford. You know, it's it's just more to it than simply saying, "Oh, you want to fight him? Go fight him." So it's just more. It's more to it than that. But
Okay,
I
so
don't
let me
know.
ask you this: what's next for Javante? Let's talk about that.
I
So,
hope that it's what
right,
he said, which is that he wants Tevin Farmer before the end of the year. I hope that that's what it is. Um, I sincerely hope that that's the next fight. Even if it was Jamel Herring or Miguel Burkelt, I would like that. I mean, or if it's Jojo Diaz, who I think would also be a competitive fight, which might even be easier to make. I don't know, but I think that would be really good for Javante.
I think
Obviously,
he's gonna be fighting. I think he's gonna be fighting Farmer. Just a guess.
I know you probably already have some information along that line that would lead you in that direction. So I certainly am not going to argue about anything that is about official news, but or unofficial
I'm
news
not
of
making an
the point.
announcement. I'm just saying
No, I'm saying,
if
but
there are odds,
you get
and
the twinkle, and when you get the little twinkle, then I know what that means.
yeah, I say we're gonna. I think we're gonna see. I say it's a good chance we're gonna see Davis Farmer, and I think it'll be a well promoted fight
I
because I
bet.
think Farmer's gonna get. He's gonna talk a lot, and I think it's gonna create some bad blood that might already exist, and I think it's just gonna perpetuate into an exciting matchup
Hmm.
and two different styles. Power against maybe a more defensive oriented type of guy, and I think it's gonna be. I think
Yeah.
Davis wins that fight.
Yeah.
I think eventually it hurts Farmer,
Hmm.
but I think nonetheless it'll be a good fight to promote, a good fight to watch. So I think we'll see something like that
Here's the
probably.
here's the thing. Like, okay, so someone is saying that, and this is kind of what I'm saying about Javante. Javante is in a unique situation.
What are they saying? You said
The,
somebody's saying
somebody's saying Hassan Barbie says being from Baltimore,
right.
Tank is a legend and he's
Yep.
a superstar. He had
Yep.
Lil Baby and Black Youngster walk him in and walk him out,
Uh,
and he sold out and got
no doubt about it.
no. But listen to what I'm saying. Got the style to be mainstream.
Hmm.
Not all fighters who have accomplished as little as Javante has accomplished have that level of appeal. Put it like this: as a pure boxing guy, which is
Hmm.
what I am, and I know you are,
Right.
I could care less.
Right. But we know
I
what his
could care less.
potential is.
But
But
we
we know what
know
he
that it
is. We know
matters.
what he is. It does matter, but we also know what he is. So I think we can all agree that although we haven't been able to see it yet because it hasn't been presented, that he very well might be the best 130 pounder.
Yeah,
So like and you add all those other things to the mix, it just makes for a superstar type of environment.
it does. It does. So that I think I mean to say essentially, I think
You
he
know what?
can
I take
play
it back.
this game.
I think Fonseca gave him a hell of a fight up
Yeah, it was. It
until
was.
it,
He
it was
was. He was
it was
overweight for that
game.
fight. Yeah.
He was a game.
Yeah, he didn't. I don't even think he trained at all for that fight. He
Okay.
did a Keith Thurman LA Fitness training or something for that. But I just think that Javante can play this Mickey Mouse matchup game a little bit longer than most because he doesn't need another name as much as most guys do. He will need it at some point. But
Eventually, people are gonna be like, "Okay, when's he gonna fight these other guys that are champions?"
yeah,
So,
I mean,
but
people are
I
saying it
I think
already.
but I think we're getting close.
Yeah, I think people are already saying it, but people can say whatever they want to say with their
Let me just say
mouths, but as
I
long as they're still showing up,
right. Let me just say I know a 135 pounder in the top 5 that said, because of the way the rules are, he'd be willing to go down to 30,
I
uh,
know he would. I know George would love it.
and, because they have the same promoter, and I think that it was told to me that, it's most likely that Farmer's gonna fight Davis next, so
I, I,
that's
you
why I'm
know,
saying that no, it's just me speculating based on, what I heard,
right?
but I think that's pretty much the way that's gonna go because, they'll let you move down and wait to challenge for a world title,
Yes,
as long so as long as you're world rated in the whatever top 10 in the same organization, so
right. So for anyone that's watching this that doesn't already know this, uh, my partner here, Peter, he is a manager of several fighters, and one of the fighters on his roster is George Kambojas Jr., undefeated, 16-0, ranked number 5 in the IBF right now, right? He, as Peter is saying, would be happy to come down to 130 to fight Gervonta.
Well,
So
to fight Farmer,
I mean to fight Farmer. I'm sorry,
right?
to fight
Because
Farmer.
they're right. They're in the what title is it? Is it the IBF title?
IBF,
Right.
IBF.
So because of
Hmm.
the IBF, he's allowed to go down and fight
Yes,
for world title. But what I'm saying is that it was said to me that that's great and all, but
th-
after
that's
this
great, right. We'd like
after
to
this
get this much.
unification, yes, exactly. So that's really nice. A lot of people would like a lot of things, but after the mandatory, it looks like unification.
And also, while we're on the subject, you should also know that Peter also manages Emmanuel Tego, who is the number one contender for the
Right.
WBO title under
Right.
Vasily Lomachenko.
Right.
So that's something that also is going to be coming up. We got a fight coming up next month. Chris Van Eerden, another fighter that you manage,
Yep.
is going to be in action. Also, there's Ryan Martin. And I want you guys to listen.
Dennis Hogan, Amir Imam.
But I got one. All of your guys are great, but I got one that I'm about to tell you guys right now. I want you to listen to this name, and I want you to get it in your head because soon it will be in your head all the time. Xander Zaius is managed by Peter Kahn. He is getting all kinds of love from all kinds of people who are truly talented talent evaluators across the world. There are people who believe he's the next great Puerto Rican fighter in this sport. So Xander Zayas, if you're not aware of him, if you need to YouTube search him, do it in another tab so you don't have to jump out of the blog.
Right. Youngest fighter ever signed to Top Rank. He's
Absolutely.
16. He'll be 17 September 5th, at which
Hmm.
point he'll be eligible to fight his pro debut either in Nevada or Texas. So we're just waiting for Top Rank to let us know what card they're going to put him on for his pro debut. Hopefully it'll be sometime in September. If not, it'll definitely be in October. But thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's exciting times for Xander. Top
Absolutely.
amateur.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
Uh,
so I kind of hear things a lot. I mean, I have many fighters with Top Rank. I have a couple with DeBella. I do business with Golden Boy, with Eddie Hearn and Matchroom. Doing something with PBC coming up. So, I just hear a lot about what might be, what may be. So if I can ever share that, I will. If
right.
not, I just give it to Mike Coppinger.
Nah, I appreciate you doing that. Is it because I'm black you don't give it to me?
The struggles we have, right?
I'm telling you, the struggles. The struggle is real. The struggle is real. So, all right. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on, Ness Mendoza. I appreciate you coming through. Everybody here, Lick Brother Banks, 92 AKU, Abraham Chavez, Sean the Icon. Like I said, Hassan Barbie. We already talked. Israel Malagone. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I appreciate everybody that's
Me
watching
too,
and the people
absolutely.
who are chiming in via the chat. Now, let's talk about the best fight of the night, which
Yeah.
was Hooker Ramirez. You were live blogging it and
Yes.
scoring it on Forbes. I hit the post fight
Right.
on Forbes.
And I sent you my scorecard at the time of the
Yes,
stoppage. I had it
yes,
even.
had it even.
Now, I had it even, but in hindsight, um, being able to look back,
Hmm.
because of the fact that the first round knockdown, as we saw, was in
Right.
essence not a knockdown.
Hmm.
I might have had Hooker ahead because of that, but it was because I did score the first round 10-8 for Ramirez, even
And
though
you had to because it was officially a knockdown.
some people might have done it, 10-9 if they felt that Hooker won the round. So what I'm saying is, meaning, what I'm saying? They didn't have to do a 10-8 round. I mean, it depends how some people see that, right? So anyway, I had it even. I had it 47-47, which one of the official judges had it 47-47. So they most likely saw it the way I saw it. I would, because the rounds that I had Ramirez winning were I think pretty clear for Ramirez, and the rounds that I think I had Hooker winning, which might have been third, fourth, and fifth,
Hmm.
were pretty clear. Uh, but it was it was exciting fight. I mean, how about Ramirez with that stoppage? I mean, the ability to be able to close that distance, to be able to just that one little mistake with Hooker with the hands down and catch him with that left hook. and be able to close the show like that. I mean, really impressive.
Yeah,
Like,
I actually
really
had it
impressive.
even too. I had it even too. I had Ramirez winning the first round and the only reason I had it even it was because of the knockdown.
Right.
And even though we all know
Right.
that it wasn't a legit knockdown,
I had to score it that way because that's what the
because
referee
that's what the
declared
ref
it a
called.
knockdown.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so I had Hooker winning 2, 3, and 4.
Okay.
And then I had Ramirez winning the fifth round.
Right.
And then, of course, we had the stoppage. So
I wanna see
92
what I had.
AKU says, who had Hooker up? Adelaide Bird.
Well, no one had Hooker up. No one had him up. I mean, all 3 judges had it. Two judges had it for Ramirez, and then one
Hmm.
judge had it like we had it, even. So I
Right.
had the first 2 rounds for Ramirez. I had, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th for Hooker,
Hmm.
and because of that, it was even.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the argument could be made that Hooker won those 3 rounds, and we don't know what was gonna happen in the 6th round because he got stopped, and it was a great stoppage.
Yeah, I thought it was a great stoppage. I thought you made a really good point in an offline conversation that you and I had. You felt that Peter Nelson, I think his name is Peter, Mark Nelson. What's his name?
Mark Nelson, yeah,
Mark
Mark.
Nelson. Mark Nelson was a bit out of position,
Right.
and
But it happened so fast.
it happened so fast. And combat sports is that way. Like jumping out of the boxing realm just for a second, just to make a comparison. Um, we saw Jorge Masvidal knock out
Mm,
Ben Askren in the first
right,
5 seconds of the fight.
right,
And because the referee was so far away, Askren ate 2 clean punches to the face. Now, obviously, Masvidal didn't have to throw those punches. He did it because he wanted to.
right,
But it took the referee a certain amount of time to get
right,
in between the fighters because of where he was. But who expects a guy to throw a flying knee in the first 5 seconds of the fight? You don't know.
right,
So
right,
same thing with this particular fight. It wasn't as if Hooker was in trouble and then the guy is banging him on the on the ropes. He got caught with a counter shot. He backed up, wobbled a bit, and then
right.
suddenly Ramirez is on him landing these shots. So
But the
I
thing
don't
is that
fault
that fir that
Nelson.
no, no, that first left hook put them further away from Nelson.
Exactly.
The way that Hooker stumbled back and the way that Ramirez came onto him. I mean, it was an excellent fight. I
Hmm.
mean,
Yes, it was.
it was a very close fight. I thought both of them were doing great things. Ramirez was investing that left hook into the body. Hooker
Hmm.
was working on that jab and trying to find a home for that right hand. Found some nice left hooks. It was just a good fight. I mean, I like Jose Ramirez. I
I
like,
love Jose
yeah,
Ramirez.
I like
I
the way
love
he
Jose.
fights. I was at the Zepeda fight in February in Fresno. I saw him in Pachanga a couple weeks ago.
Mhm,
Robert Garcia was out there. I forgot who Robert was with. Oh, with Adamas.
mhm,
And so, I saw Jose out there as well, and he's a good guy. I thought both him and Maurice showed great sportsmanship afterwards.
absolutely.
I think the zone zeroing in on Hooker's kids crying was a bit much.
Man, I'm like, what is this? What is like? And it was so crazy, right? Because I flipped over um after the fight was over, and I
Right,
flipped to UFC 240 because I'm covering that as well. And they showed the same type of shot
right.
for somebody. I think it was for Frankie Edgar's kids after Max Holloway beat. I'm like, what is on this thing with showing the kids when they're when their dads or their mother or whatever is losing a fight? Like it's not cool, man. But
I guess it
I
comes
know
with
what
the
it is.
it comes with the territory.
I mean I know it's like it comes with the territory, but at some point, doesn't it almost border on exploitation of the minor? You know what I'm saying?
I
Like
mean, I don't know. I think that it's
I
just oh,
here,
well, look,
here's how
it's
hypocritical it is, right?
right,
For just overall for people. They show that and people go, okay, well, all right. Daniel Cormier gets knocked out by John Jones and starts crying. This is a grown man who chose to
right,
fight.
right.
And everybody freaks out because if you laugh at that, you're like, or if you make any light of it, then you're inappropriate. But we're
Right.
showing kids crying after their parents are losing combat sports events. I don't know. I just feel like it's an unneeded shot.
I mean, look, they show NFL wives and kids crying after big games, baseball. I mean, it just comes with the territory. It's because of the nature of combat sports and because of the nature in which Hooker lost.
Yeah,
It's an emotional reaction. Look,
it is.
thank God he was okay.
Yes.
Thank God that they're both okay in light of everything that's taken place in the
Yeah.
last couple weeks. It was a good fight. It was a great fight. I even said to you, even though I know it's not going to happen, it definitely warrants a rematch. If you
Yeah.
really want to look at how that fight was going, it was shaping up to be one of those things that would be potentially decided in the later rounds, right?
Mhm.
But Ramirez just was relentless with the pressure,
Mhm.
and he was able to close that distance. He was able to get that range and that one split of a second in boxing,
You know,
and that hook just was the beginning of the end, real quick for Hooker.
now I understand why you say that, and I don't think that it's like a preposterous thing at all. But I will say this: I think that a rematch would be even more would be lopsided in Ramirez's favor,
Really?
and the reason being is because as you watch the progression of that fight,
Mhm.
the style in which Ramirez was fighting and beginning to win and beginning to score was one that looked as if it was going to go downhill for Hooker as the fight went on. I thought his pressure was more effective.
Right.
And I thought that he was really truly gaining momentum. And I think in a rematch, he only builds on that. Now that is not reason enough to say not to do one,
Right.
but that's just what I think would happen in a
Right.
second fight.
I mean, look, and it's a good point. It's a good point, but look at where Hooker lost. Now, Hooker gave Ramirez too much opportunity at moments by sitting on the ropes,
Hmm.
but this didn't happen. This happened in the middle of the ring.
Yeah. Yeah.
This happened right in the middle of the ring where Hooker was having his best moments.
Yes.
Where he can keep that distance, work behind that jab. This happened, where little by little, inch by inch, Ramirez was able to shorten that distance, and then he was able to pounce. So, yeah, maybe it would be that way.
Hmm.
Maybe it would. Who knows? Maybe we'll see Hooker at welterweight.
Yeah. He's so lean. I kind of see some similarities between him and one of your fighters and a guy who Ramirez already beat and
Amir
Amir
Mom.
Ahmad.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
see a lot of similarities in the way that they're built and some of the
Yeah.
skills. And I think Ramirez actually ended up kind of doing the same type of job in this particular fight that he did in that fight, even though I believe that when Amir Mom comes back, I think he's going to come back better and even better.
Yeah, listen, Amir called me right after that fight, and
Yeah.
and and he was like, "Can you believe, 12 did 12 rounds with Ramirez?" And he said, "I did it under circumstances where I wasn't prepared properly." He said, "I did it basically just on fumes,"
Hmm.
which goes into his preparation.
Yeah.
And that's his own responsibility at the end of the day, but it gives him a lot of hope
Yeah.
for when he comes
Absolutely.
back now. It gives him a lot of hope for where he can be with
Hmm.
how he sort of kind of measures himself to where he's been.
Yeah.
Because he had that same type of letdown against Granados. So,
Absolutely.
those
Hmm.
things will be fixed. You're going to see a rejuvenated Amir Imam. But to your point, Hooker's still held. I mean, he took his first loss, but he took it to such a great fighter,
Very. I mean,
to Ramirez.
Ramirez is, man. I'm telling you, in my opinion, Ramirez is one of the more underrated fighters in the world. Right
Absolutely.
now, I think he's a top 10 fighter in the world. I really do. And I think that he a lot of times, man, the guys that don't have the personalities that jump
Hmm.
out off the page, they get overlooked, and it's unfortunate. But he's that kind of guy. I think Hooker is that kind of guy too. I mean, um, it'd be nice to see that. But we have some hardcores in this
Right.
chat right now.
Okay.
We do.
Are they
We have
yelling
some
at
hard.
us?
No, no, I'm just looking at the stuff that they're saying,
Okay.
and these are not only show up 2 times a year for the biggest name boxing fans here. We
Right.
we got people talking, in ways that I know that they watch fights. Abraham Chavez says the refs on real alert after the tragedy that happened. Obviously, yeah, I would agree with
Absolutely.
that. Manny Rodriguez says that Ramirez versus Progre would be a great fight. I
Manny,
think
I
it
was
would.
just going to talk about that. I was going to talk about the
Yeah.
Progre Taylor fight and talk
Yes.
about the possible matchup. So we'll get to that in a second, but that's a great point.
Yes. Abraham Chavez says that he disagrees. He doesn't think there needs to be a rematch. He
Right.
said if the stoppage had happened in the later rounds, he would have liked that. But where it happened, he doesn't think that that was necessary.
Right.
Joe Chaz says just plainly, the tank fight was trash. That's
Listen, he did
just
his job. He did his job. Look, you want to listen, those belts are meaningful. You want to keep the belt, you got to fight the mandatory.
Yeah, and
It
that's
is the
why I
nature of
don't.
the
Yeah,
game.
that's why I don't criticize him for that.
But they gotta start figuring it out, and we
They
talked
got to
about that,
start
or we
figuring
we
it
talked
out.
about that
If
earlier.
Yeah,
They gotta start figuring that out, but
yeah, if he
no,
cares about his legacy and not just his wallet, they got
right.
to start figuring it
And
out.
I like our audience. I appreciate you guys, really. I
Absolutely,
do,
absolutely.
absolutely. So,
Uh, oh, we got one more. We got a few more actually. 92 AKU says Ramirez versus Taylor Progre winner is fire. Uh,
absolutely.
and then Manny says the tank needs to step up his fights, or they're not even exciting. It's
Which we
like you
talked
are
we talked about early on in
right.
in this broadcast. So, to the point of which is where I was going, and I'm glad that everybody's kind of, a couple of guys are hitting on this. Uh, Definitely, the winner of Progre and Taylor has to fight Ramirez. That's a must.
Yeah.
And you know what? Promotionally, they're in a great position to make it happen. So
Hmm.
Top Rank right now has Ramirez, and they have those two belts. Progre is with Lou DiBella, who works very closely with Top Rank, so that's not a problem. And I don't imagine that there's going to be any impediment with Taylor should Taylor beat Progre. I
Hmm.
actually think we're going to see some excellent unification at 140. And I think 140 moving forward has the potential to be a really exciting division. I don't know where Lomachenko is as far as weight goes, but he's potentially someone that could eventually make his way to 40. If Teofimo Lopez could win a world title against Comey, which after the Nakatani fight, I'm thinking, unless it was just a bad night, I'm thinking that Comey has a real good shot with Lopez. I think that's going to be a good matchup. But what I'm saying is there, aside from the immediate unification that can take place, it seems like there's some good stuff on the runway as well.
Yeah, for sure. You know what I notice, and this happens a lot. It's happening at 140 a lot. It seems. There's seems to be fewer impediments to these unification
Oh,
bouts
I'm sorry,
because, Hmm,
Brian. I'm sorry.
yeah,
And Bud hinted come back down to 140
yeah,
to get some of
yeah.
that action.
Yeah, he I can
Sorry about that.
understand. I can
Yeah,
understand why he would do that because of what you were talking about before.
right.
But I think that that also right there kind of plays into what I was saying before, that Javante and Crawford are not on the same level as a draw, because Javante's not dropping down to go to anybody's to find some action.
And here's look, with all I like to say, with all things being equal, I don't think Gervonta is selling out the MGM Grand. I don't think he's selling out Madison Square
Mm,
Garden. Not yet. I think the opponent plays a big role in that. I mean, take Crawford out of Nebraska, take Gervonta out of Baltimore, DC area, and I think it's nothing against either of them. You know what I'm saying? It's just a function of you need that strong B side to be able to make a compelling promotion.
mm,
Um,
I don't
and
know.
so
I think you might be underestimating the hip hop generation.
No, no, I'm not under. Listen, I've been Brian. This generation
Mhm.
there's always a generation in a generation,
Mhm.
and in 25 years, I've seen it with certain fighters
Mhm.
that that have the audience that will come out and support them like that. It's just that at some point, even those people are like, okay, yeah, we get it. You're knocking these
I
people
put
out
I put it like
at some
this.
point.
It hasn't happened to Broner yet. And if
But
anybody
they're
should,
two different personalities.
they're different
A lot of people still do come out to see Broner because they can't stand him, and then there are people that come out to see him because they love him. Like, it's both.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
think they're trying to build Tank back in a situation where everybody loves him. I
I
think
think
that,
so. I think
like, I don't want they
I
don't
don't
want
think
people not liking him.
yeah, they don't want him because I don't think that personality-wise he can handle that, because it's a not everybody can handle being the guy in the room that everybody hates.
Leonard told me after the Fonseca fight, he
Mhm.
said when he was talking to me about another fighter that we had together,
Mhm.
he said, well, let me tell you something. You're not going to see Javante for a while. He said he's in timeout.
Yeah. Yeah, he told me the same thing. I did an
Right,
interview with
that's right.
Leonard.
So he
Yeah.
said he's in timeout, and then I think it was because they wanted him to understand that the responsibility that he has, and which they want for him, is to be a superstar.
Mhm.
And they wanted him, like, they didn't like how he mocked. I guess first of all there was the weight issue,
Yeah, it was a weight issue.
right? But then also the way he mocked Fonseca after it was just that whole thing wasn't trending in the right direction.
Yeah, I think it was the weight issue probably even more than anything because I think that was kind of like a big issue as well with Broner. Broner started
Mhm.
off mocking the weight issues
Right.
and making light of missing weight and all that kind of thing. And that's a that it's one thing to be a brass personality and all that, but the one thing about Floyd, who is like the leader in brass personalities, is that nobody can ever say Floyd was not a professional.
Right.
Floyd don't miss weight.
Right.
Floyd's in shape,
Mhm.
all the time. And then even after fights, the talk is always respectful with
Right.
Floyd. You
And he was
know,
a clean fighter.
clean fighter, as far as everybody knows. So it's and
No,
less
I don't
than
mean I don't mean that way. I
mhm.
mean the way he fought. I
Oh,
mean, he wasn't
absolutely.
wasn't a dirty fighter.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, people can say what they want to say, but
Right.
those are the facts.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know. I think Javante is a special draw. I
Mhm.
don't know if he's as great a fighter as he is a draw. I think he's a really, really good fighter. I think we won't find out if he's as great a fighter as he is a draw. And I don't even think he's as good a draw as he can be. I do think that he could become even bigger by taking on bigger fights.
Right.
But I think that his team thinks that and believes that there is a risk there that they're not necessarily willing to take in all of these different situations. Because I truly believe Javante wants Lomachenko and believes
Mhm.
he can beat him. I think he believes it, whether he can or not. I think he believes he can. But Floyd even said now is not the time.
Right.
He's
They're
now
still
is
they're still they're still building.
yeah,
They're
now is
still
not the time.
building, and he still needs to be tested a little bit.
So, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But Joe Chaz says that Progre needs to fight Donaire. I don't think that that needs to happen before Taylor, and then before Ramirez. I don't think that's anything that needs to happen. Um, Joe also said that Nunez had 8 losses. That's actually not true. Nunez had 2 losses coming into that fight. This fight was his third loss. Um, and then Ness Mendoza says, "Is Davis that good, or is Nunez not skilled?" I think okay. So if you saw the fight,
Mhm.
Nunez didn't look horrible. He looked like a guy who came in there ready to fight. He got caught because he was careless on a break.
The power is real, though.
Yeah, the power, absolutely. Javante can crack.
Power is real.
The power is real.
I mean,
The
the
Javante
guy
can crack.
got stunned, so
Yeah. I mean, but to get stunned,
yeah.
they come out of the clinch and he has his hands down and head straight up in the air.
Right.
And he was, dare I say, and many people will wonder why would an underdog as big as him be overconfident. But I think he was a little bit overconfident. He was in there trying to prove, like Paulie said during the broadcast, I got this.
Mhm.
I got this. And like Paulie said, no, you don't got this. No, you don't got this.
Right.
So, but I thought, like I said, he didn't look horrible for what he was. But yeah, see, Manny Rodriguez says that Broner versus Khan would be a good fight. And he doesn't know why he likes that matchup. Um, I think that would actually be a pretty interesting fight, to be honest, but it's not going to happen.
We got
Um,
Red Catch. Broner's gonna
yeah,
fight Red
Bronner's
Catch.
got red catch, and we'd have Amir Khan is like trying to fight Artem Lobov right now, and for real, literally, seriously, he's trying to fight Artem Lobov. And if
In
anybody does,
boxing or bare knuckle?
it would be boxing.
Bare knuckle, that would be interesting.
Yeah, Brad Uncle, that might be interesting. It might be interesting. So
Listen,
we'll see.
yeah,
We'll see
I
what
mean,
happens. But this was, this weekend, aside from chiming in just to find out if Javante knocked the guy out in 2 minutes or four, this was one of those real, true, hardcore boxing fans weekends.
mhm.
You're not sitting down to watch Ramirez Hooker unless you really love this sport.
But it's such a great matchup.
It was,
I mean, I feel
but
like I think we all coming after last week, right? 3 in the morning doing a wrap up on Pacquiao,
mhm.
and Thurman. The fact that I actually work in the sport and all I do is talk about boxing all day long, only to be home on a Saturday night live blogging Hooker Ramirez, and then at 2 in the morning to be. I need to go like Boxers Anonymous, Boxing Anonymous.
You and I
I
both.
need like we need like a support group.
You and I both, because the first step is admitting that you have a problem.
I started to think about. I'm like, I have a problem.
Right, you have a problem. So, but it seemed like there was at least a decent enough amount of people interested in your live blog. I mean, it's not
Well,
dreadful.
look, I mean, no, but look. Last week, 170,000 people plus read the Pacquiao Thurman.
Right.
I was joking around when I sent you the poop emoji about my
Hmm.
live blog.
Right.
Not because the live blog was bad. It was just it's unfortunate that but it makes your point.
Hmm.
Whereas the Davis Nunez live blog did gazillion more numbers than mine.
Hmm.
And my fight, the one I was covering, was the more compelling fight. I
Better
mean,
fight in every
the
way,
better
shape,
fight.
or
And
form.
it ended up that way, but that's just the nature of the sport. Like, the real fight fans were like thinking, all week, I'm looking forward to this fight. And I even said, even though the odds, my bookie had Ramirez a minus 160 favorite
Hmm.
going into the first round, and they had Hooker as a plus 135 underdog, meaning you'd have to bet $160 to win
Yes.
100 on Ramirez, and you'd have to bet 100 to win 135 on Hooker. In boxing terms, that's almost like a pick 'em
Yeah.
odds,
I
especially
said I
when
use the same term. I use the
okay,
same term in my piece.
okay.
Exactly.
So it was a very compelling fight, and honestly, right up until the very violent, quick end, it was close.
Yeah. Yeah. I my thing is, and like I agree with you that a rematch makes some sense, right?
Yeah, not right now, but I mean, down
Yeah.
the road,
Now,
maybe these
oh,
guys meet
definitely,
again.
definitely. Hooker wins another fight, stops a guy, and doesn't go up to 147.
You know
I
what?
completely think, yeah.
Let him fight the loser of Progre Taylor.
And if he beats him,
Right
absolutely,
back in the mix.
absolutely. I would say 100%.
Listen, PBC does it all the time with the welterweights.
Yeah,
They're all being recycled.
they're all being. I mean, now we haven't seen a lot of rematches there, though.
No, but you see them repurposed.
Yeah, you see that group of four guys kind of, yeah, like, so they can do the same thing with
Right,
140.
right.
Yeah, yeah, exactly,
I mean,
exactly.
Hooker can still there's plenty of people for him to still fight in compelling fights, and if Crawford comes down, to
Oh, it
fight.
changes everything.
Right, but, and that would theoretically take place after the winner of Progre Taylor fights Ramirez.
Yeah,
Bud comes on down for the
that'd be
full
nice.
unification. I mean, it would be listen, it's there to be done, put it that way.
That'd be nice. But I think Progre knocks out Ramirez.
Well, you think Progre well, first he has to get past
I think
Taylor.
he, I think, I think he beats Taylor, and I think he knocks out Ramirez.
Do you think he stops Taylor?
Um,
Does everybody here that's listening to us now know enough about Josh Taylor? Have you seen Josh Taylor fight? What do you guys think? If you could chime in real quick, what do you think? Do you think Progre or Taylor? Because
yeah,
it's two
I wanna
different
know.
styles.
I wanna
Yeah,
know.
it's
I wanna know what you guys
boxer
think.
against puncher. So I'm curious
Yeah, I wanna know what you think about
because
what he.
Taylor stopped Ryan Martin
Mhm.
and he stopped Baranchik.
Yes.
So that's the and listen, Progre's run through everybody that's been put in his way.
Mhm.
Progre's going to go to Scotland to fight Taylor.
Mhm.
And I just wonder what everybody else thinks, if everyone's familiar with Taylor. Not a lot of
Yeah,
people are.
I mean, Taylor has some. I mean, nobody, like, a lot of the fighters that come from the UK, right, and
Mhm.
they're undefeated in the UK. A lot of times we pick apart their, their resume because they have only fought other guys from the UK, but that's not the case with
Right, with Taylor.
Taylor.
And
He-
Taylor is like Billy Joe Saunders, like in
Mhm.
that type of good use of distance, good boxer,
Mhm.
um, you know, knows how to stay out of trouble, knows how to win. So I'm just curious what everybody else thinks.
So 92 AKU says that he thinks that Taylor Prograis is a 50-50 fight.
Okay.
Um, I don't think that. Prograis has explosive cracking power, and he
Mhm.
has excellent fight IQ, and he has that quick twitch athleticism that you just can't teach a guy.
Mhm.
And fighters like that in the prime of their careers, you have to be a truly special fighter, or you have to bring a specific kind of style that
Mhm.
they are just going to struggle against no matter what throughout their entire careers. I don't think that Josh Taylor has that kind of style from Progre. For Progre, I think
Mhm.
that Josh Taylor is a very, very good fighter who will beat or compete or push most everybody that he fights. But I think Progre stops him in the fifth or sixth round.
So do you think Progre has to stop him in Scotland?
I think he has to stop him or he has to dominate. But I
Right,
think that he could do both. Either,
right.
I should say.
And so, it's a good point. I mean, I've seen Progre, I've seen him fight. I've also seen him in training. He trains in Santa Monica. He moved to California. He trains at Churchill with Chris Van Heerden.
Mhm.
He came out to Pachanga for the fights, a few weeks ago. I mean, real strong guy. I mean, just thick, strong. Like you said, he has what some big power punchers have. He has that thick lower body strength.
Mhm. Yeah.
And he has the demeanor,
Yes.
the seek and destroy demeanor.
Mhm.
It just comes down if Taylor's boxing and use of distance and mitigating Progre's power um, could allow him to win a fight like that.
You know what I think it would look similar to? Similar to last week, the way Luis Neri broke down Juan Carlos Payano.
Mhm.
Neri's shots were whacking shots that the like Payano may have been a slightly better technical boxer or a little bit of a better technical boxer than Neri, but not outclassing him so much in that area where he can stop absorbing the shots. And
Right.
because Neri's hands were so much heavier, and I think Progre has heavy hands in that same way, I
Mhm.
think that ultimately he wears him down. Hassan Barbie says that he's got Regis. He says he's got that dog in him, and that's something that you can't teach. But if Taylor has a chin in box, he could win. But he thinks that Regis wins by a ninth round KO.
Listen, I think that's why Regis has no issue going to Scotland. I
Yeah,
think Regis believes in Regis in that regard. That
yeah.
that as soon as he gets his hands on him, he's going to hurt him.
Yes, as soon as he touches him good, when I touch him really well, that he's gonna go away. But I don't mean this to disrespect Josh Taylor. I mean Josh Taylor beat Miguel Valdez. He beat Victor Postol. Like you say, stopped Baranchik. I mean, and we're not. There's no reason to believe that Josh Taylor can't punch either. He's 15-0 with 12 knockouts.
Right.
So, and he's faced good competition. He's not just been fighting guys who are local guys just to pad a record.
Mhm.
Nobody who jumped into the World Boxing Super Series tournaments is looking to only face that type of competition.
Right.
The people who got in that were looking to challenge
Yeah,
themselves.
and he beat
So,
Ryan Martin. I mean,
yeah,
Ryan, super athlete. He's down here training right now. I mean, they're it's gonna be a good fight. And
yeah.
even more so, that's what makes it that much more exciting is that the winner of that fight will be holding 2 world titles,
Hmm.
and it's just a natural. I mean, it's a no-brainer.
It's no. I mean,
They
if
gotta
the
fight
Ramirez,
Ramirez.
it
It's a
has to fight. It
no-brainer.
has to happen. It has to happen.
So
So,
I think that's a mega fight.
yeah, yeah. I think it's a mega fight for me and you. I think the rest of the casuals will ignore it the same way they just ignored Ramirez Hooker.
Okay. Well, they can ignore it. I think that for everyone that's up at 2:30 a.m. Eastern
Exactly.
and 11:30 p.m. on the West Coast, hey, we're all tuning in.
Yeah, I 100%
Okay, so
agree.
that's for you guys. This talk is, it's for
This is
you
for
guys.
you. That fight is for
We're,
you
we're
guys.
tuning in. You know what I mean?
That fight is for all of you guys right now. It's
Yeah.
for them. So,
So
but yeah,
and
pretty
then and
solid.
then and then afterwards, whether it's Ramirez, Taylor, or Progre who's standing, Bud comes on down and says, "Okay,
Hmm.
I'm coming to just be part of this party."
And honestly, Top Rank probably hopes it's Ramirez because I think from a cultural standpoint, that's an easier fight to sell to the masses,
Right.
you
Sure.
know, especially if don't let it fall in May or September.
Right.
I mean, it's just real. I mean, it's
Right.
marketing, you know. So,
So,
yeah,
hey, I mean, well, who knows? I mean, Canelo just canceled his September fight. So,
Yeah,
You
but
know, obviously
he's
not this
different though.
September, but I'm just saying,
Yeah, he's different. He makes his own rules because of his level of popularity. Canelo's gonna whenever he fights, it's a holiday.
right. So while we have the diehards on here with us, I want to
Hmm.
know everybody because the zone made a point of allowing Eddie Hearn to go on the broadcast to answer a few questions. And oh, by the way, what can you tell us about Dillian White's drug test?
Right.
I'm sure Eddie wasn't prepared for that question.
Mm.
So he gave his answer,
Hmm.
his well thought out, pre-scripted answer on that. Did you catch that by any chance?
No, I didn't. I had actually turned the sound down. Not as a disrespect to Eddie.
Yeah, yeah,
I
no, no,
was
no.
I was
I know,
typing up the
but
recap.
I don't know what to think now because basically what he said was that the British Boxing Board of Control
Hmm.
had been aware of whatever that situation was, had
Hmm.
had a hearing,
Hmm.
that evidence was presented by Dillian White, and that they cleared him.
Mm.
Eddie admits that maybe in hindsight, or he said it's a catch 22, that they should have told Rivas team,
Hmm.
hey, by the way,
Yeah.
this came up. We had a hearing. The evidence supported the fact that nothing was wrong or that he was cleared. And Eddie's like, well, we didn't want to put that in their head because then immediately after they could come and say, well, this, what was this about this? Well, it came out anyway.
Hmm.
So what I'm just wondering, like, are we going to know what's going on here, what the story is, and what that would mean um, moving forward for other people? Because it just seems to be like an epidemic. You know.
Yeah, and one thing I think is that it was just the worst horrible timing because for him to fail a drug test before the fight and for them to allow him to fight on the same weekend that two fighters pass away from injuries suffered in the ring,
Hmm.
the sensitivity level was so much.
Right,
Not
but what I'm
not
saying is,
saying that.
but the way it was explained is that whatever the case was, there was evidence to support why it should have been cleared. So I don't know. Did he fail Avada testing? Did he
Mhm.
fail a test and have evidence that showed that this was the reason why it came up this what? I, eventually, we're going to have to find out, right?
Well, see, I think what I was saying is that the reason that he's going into this level of damage control is, I think, partly because of what happened this weekend. Because it
Mhm.
shined a brighter spotlight on, because I even saw some people making reference to this, and this was not just like fans, this was members of the media
Right.
making reference to the fact that, so now what do you think now in light of what happened to Maxim Dadashev,
Mhm.
what do you think of,
And
you know
Hugo Santillan.
allow and Hugo Centurion, how do you feel about them allowing Dillian White to fight knowing that
Right.
he, so I think when those types of,
Yeah.
when people are making those types of suggestions,
Yeah.
you you
I
know,
mean, I hear you. I think that I understand what you're saying. Um, I also think that the two untimely and really tragic deaths. I think it goes. I don't. That has nothing to do with PEDs as and I'm not saying anything, but I think it, and this is something we're going to get into in an interview this week with some
mhm,
experts, some medical
right,
experts. But the long and the short of it is, the weight cut and the dehydration and rehydration of fighters
mhm,
is something that you can get dehydrated like that,
right,
but you can't rehydrate like that.
mhm,
And that's the problem. And that also plays into brain health.
mhm,
And then it plays into being more susceptible for swelling and all sorts of reasons. I mean, this is just a tragic week.
mhm,
But I also think that we're in a time where more and more people are popping positive for PEDs or just drugs that are not permitted.
mhm,
And then of course, like last week, and we spoke with Sean Gibbons, uh, president of Manny Pacquiao Promotions, about the fact that Manny's fought in 24 world title fights in 8 different weight divisions. and he's still plagued with the questions of is he on PEDs, but yet he's never failed a test, and arguably the most the most drug tested fighter ever because of the amount of world title fights. So, it's a whole other conversation. I know I'm kind of drifting a little bit, but I'm just, because
Well,
all this took place.
one thing is, I would say is the truth sometimes is secondary to perception. Oftentimes it is, right?
Right,
So I totally agree with you that the PED situation is not a direct thing that should all be connected to, fighter deaths in the ring and that sort of
right,
thing. But if that's what a great deal of your consumer base believes, whether or not they're right or they're wrong, if they're going to have a reaction off of it, then there has to be some attention paid to it in
right,
terms of it, even if it's as simple as educating them, which is kind of what you're talking about doing and what we're talking about doing with the interview that's coming up.
right,
But there are a lot of people that draw a parallel to that, often inappropriately, but they still do it.
right. I mean, and we're going to invite everybody to participate in a conversation after we do have that interview. We'll share that video. We'll post that, but it's really going to get into really what goes into weight cut,
Hmm.
what some fighters do to squeeze into a smaller weight class, how much weight guys lose, how they get dehydrated, how dangerous it really is. But it's another topic. I mean,
Absolutely, absolutely, it
so
sure is.
so
That's,
when
I mean, I think we covered it tonight. I mean, we hit up on several things. I mean, I think we talked about everything that went on in the boxing world this evening and into this the next morning.
any other comments or questions or
Uh we got we got a couple things out here. Um duh, 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 duh. um Ness Mendoza. Ness Mendoza, that is just a dope name. I don't know if your first name is really Ness, but Ness Mendoza sounds like a character in a movie who is like the dude that everybody's afraid of, but
badass?
like just
Like
Ness
Like Kaiser Sosa or
like you're
Kaiser
like
Sose,
it sounds like a like you're like a Puerto Rican rapper that
I was gonna say, yeah.
Big Pun put on, and everybody knew that, like, according to Big Pun, that you was that man. So you was like a member of the Terror Squad or something. But he says that I can say Davis will be special if he fights a Class B
I mean,
boxer.
he is stuck on Davis.
Yes, he loves. I told you, I told you this at the
Yeah, no,
beginning of the
but
day.
he's criticizing him. I mean, he's stuck on
Yeah,
criticize. Isn't he the same guy that said the fight was trash? Is this the
but
same guy?
no, Joe Chaz says that the
Oh,
fight
okay,
was trash.
okay, okay.
So, but this is what I'm trying to tell you. This is what I'm trying to tell you, man. It's you know, it's people are into this guy, you
Right.
know. They're into him, and he's a very intriguing talent. But
All right. So what else we got? So Nes Mendoza,
let's
we're
see.
talking about.
Yeah, let's see. That's pretty much it for the most part. Just, I think people enjoyed the fights. They enjoyed the fights tonight. Wait a minute, somebody said something about UFC. Okay, Abraham Chavez says that tank fights are so predictable. Taxi drivers, fighters. That's why he paid for UFC 240 instead of watching that weak fight.
Okay. Listen, listen, it was a mandatory. Believe
Yeah,
me, that's what I'm saying. See, now Brian, it's kind of making my point. It's kind of hurting him. There's a bit of a fan. I'm just saying it is
but
just.
that's just one guy,
I
and that's
get it,
also one guy that's up at
but there might.
one at 240 on Eastern at
Hey,
240 a.m. So
there could
he's a
be.
hardcore.
Good for him. I like him.
He's a
Name?
hardcore.
What's his name?
That was Abraham Chavez.
I like
He's
Abraham Chavez.
hardcore.
Smart guy.
He is. He is. Abraham Chavez, he sounds like he used to fight.
It's very possible.
It's very possible. He's hardcore.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the hardcores are not what push these guys to the next level
All right.
of, yeah, they're not.
So what do we have? Do we have anything? What is the date? I don't. Today's the 20. Is it the 26th, 27th? What date? What's today?
Now it's the 28th.
Right, 28th. So it's the 20. So what do we have coming up?
Uh, that next week, you know what? This stuff goes so fast. I forget what's already next week. What you know what's happening next week.
But I know
Now
we have something decent on deck.
it's crazy that I could tell you exactly what's happening in the UFC next week. But let's see on August 2nd. That one's not great. It's Anthony Fowler versus Brian Rose. That's on the zone. On August 3rd, Michael Conlon from
Mhm.
Ireland is
Okay.
fighting Diego Alberto Ruiz. And that's on ESPN Plus.
Mm. Yeah,
Kalnacki, Chris Ariola on Fox. I mean,
okay.
I really like
Interesting.
Kalnacki.
I know you do. I know you
Yeah,
like them.
I like Andre Berto's on that card.
Right.
Marcus Brown against John Pascal for the WBA interim light heavyweight title.
Say that
And
again?
for the
Oh
WBA
my god.
interim,
Yeah, Brown's gonna demolish him.
that I really Jean Pascal is a guy I wish would just call it a career because he's done
Brown,
enough.
I mean,
He's done a lot,
yeah.
and
If
but yeah, that's
if you
it.
think Jack got Brown at the wrong time,
Yeah,
Pascal's getting him at the wrong time. You said
yeah,
Marcus Brown, right?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, so that actually is the Kalnacki Areola is the biggest fight of the weekend.
Now, you and I have to find a way to do a live show when we're in LA together,
Yeah,
the week, of the fight that's on the 17th.
right. That's the Navarrete Francisco de Vaca fight.
Right. I would say Navarrete, but, you know.
Okay, him too.
Yeah, so we'll be together out there in LA, and, we gotta do a show together, and, you know, see
Yeah,
if any of these guys ever, come out to all the LA guys, if any of these guys come out to the shows, you know, we'd obviously love to meet some of these people too.
for sure. And we can go out to Russia in Chelyabinsk, Russia on August 24th
Oh,
for Kovalev Yard.
yeah, we'll see how that goes. And might be some interesting Kovalev news next week.
There might be.
I
It
don't know. We'll
might
see.
be.
There might
Yeah,
be. There might be.
there might be.
Yeah.
There might be something that you can cop if you
Yeah,
are athletic.
exactly. It's pretty good. These guys are like, "What are they talking about?" I don't know. We'll see if there's any good Kovalev news next week. Did
All
I
right. Yes.
but,
So I appreciate everybody coming out and watching and participating in the chat. Um, be on the lookout on Wednesday for our next episode of this week or Fight Guys Weekly. I think Peter will join me
I
this
will be.
week.
I will be.
He stood me up on
No,
Wednesday, but it's
bad
okay.
planning. Poor planning on my
It's
behalf.
okay. I'm used to it.
No.
I think it's because I'm black, but it's okay. I appreciate everybody watching as usual. God bless and peace.